need SOA, and how come it became all of a sudden so popular. Everybody started talking about SOA. Uh, 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 then we will see how it is related to WebLogic, because the moment we say SOA administration, everybody starts to ask, do you know WebLogic? So we'll see how WebLogic is related to SOA. Then we slowly go into the components of SOA. What are the various components, how SOA helps businesses, and how SOA helps technology. And then we will actually get into the the implementation parts. All right. Any questions? If you have any questions, you can always stop at any point of time. You can start talking directly, or you can put it in the chat you have here on the GoToMeeting screen. All right, I'll be watching that chart. I'll try to give answers as and when you pose any questions. All right. So, and apart from that, this is the environment we would be working. What you are looking at, you will have pretty much a real-time environment. This is a Windows box that you are looking at. The screen is shared from this box. This box is actually connected to a server, which is encode ID server 10. That's a Oracle Enterprise Linux 6 server. Apart from that, we will also have a virtual machine which is running on the same hardware. All right, that's also a Red Hat and a Red Hat system that is most likely will be replacing with OEL server, and all these three systems are connected in LAN through a router. This one you're looking at now. You will have access to this Red Hat system over the internet. This is a cloud server, so you'll be pretty much able to use the same box that we are working on. So you will get more into that one. And from Windows box to these Unix boxes, will be working on PuTTY, just like you do in your Office, the regular the real-time way of setting up things. And all our practice, implementation, even the thinking, everything will be in Linux. Once you you understand it in Linux, it's pretty much same thing in Windows also. Windows, it's a lot easier when compared to Linux. So once you know in Linux, and most of the times you won't have, it's very rare that you see WebLogic or SOA being implemented in Windows, but if you do, even the fundamentals, the concepts, everything remain the same. The only thing is instead of a .sh script, you would be executing a .cmd script at a very base level. Alright, so I'll just go through the introduction. Alright, then probably take a couple of questions from you. You might have a lot of questions. Then we will go in depth. Alright, the introduction, I'll try to give you what is SOA, why is it so popular now all of a sudden. So we'll see what is SOA, how we what is Oracle SOA, or is there any other kinds of SOA products available in the market, and then how is it SOA related to Fusion middleware that we always talk about nowadays. All right, and obviously SOA and WebLogic, how they are related. These are some of the questions I just put onto the screen. I will be talking a lot more than what you will see on the screen. A lot of real-time stuff, a lot of implementation related stuff we'll be talking about. Make sure you put on a question whenever you have any doubt or anything at all. All right, now I'm going to go ahead give you an example to describe why SOA is so popular, or how SOA is different from the traditional way of implementing technology for business solutions. At the end of the day, we all set up IT infrastructure so that it helps the business. Most of the times, the IT infrastructure itself creates what is called, hurdles, means limitations, We say if the business says they want to do XYZ, but the technology team says it cannot be implemented within the time we are looking for. So sometimes business has to constrain themselves because of lack of flexibility in terms of technology. Now we'll see what kind of hindrances they will have, what SOA provides. Then we will try to understand from an example perspective. I'm going to show you a slide, videos, couple of videos, just more of they give you, you will remember that forever kind of. The reason I picked up that video. See this video. This is a video of a cheetah. Cheetah. There might be slight disturbance. Let's look at the way a cheetah runs, or the way it hunts. Right. That should be enough. Now the same thing. Look at an elephant. How it works. When it runs, what actually happens? That's an elephant. So we looked at how a cheetah moves, performs, or how it operates versus how an elephant operates. Now let's come back. Now which is better? Which is efficient? What do you guys think? A business, how it should be? It should be like a cheetah, which can move around, flexible, fast, or it should be like an elephant. That's right. All the businesses want to be like cheetah. They want to be expand. They want to be able to respond to business requirements. They want to be able to expand at a much larger pace with lesser cost. But the problem is they are actually like elephants. All the big businesses, if you see, they're more like elephants. They have standard in IT, they can't move, they have employees, they're not able to see the people. Yes, no, we don't have anything in the people. So here, all the businesses are more like nowadays elephants. They can't move. And they want to be like cheetahs. Now the way that cheetah moved around, you should say, it's usually in technical terms called agility. The ability to move quickly, the ability to twist, turn, take a back turn, fix your setup, launch a new service, or set up your centers at a new location, able to move your employees to a different location, able to train your employees in a new product. That's what businesses want. They want to be much agile. But they are like elephants. That's the problem. They cannot move around. They have all standard IT infrastructure already installed. They have old loyal employees sitting with them. They can't lose the employees because they are loyal. But if they don't lose them, and they can't learn. So businesses have this problem always. They're more like elephants. So the first thing that SOA promises is this agility. We'll see how it promises this agility later, but the reason why SOA is so attractive to all the big companies nowadays is the SOA guys are saying to all these big businesses that we will make you like cheetahs. You're like an elephant. You can't move around. We'll make you like a cheetah. Probably they're shown the same video kind of thing. So all the businesses at least are very attracted to the concept of becoming a cheetah. Now it's a very beautiful notion that you will be able to do much faster the things that you are doing now. I will see how SOA provides, but the first thing that SOA promises to provide is the agility. This is the most important thing about SOA. It provides agility to the business. It removes certain constraints from business side or technology side so that your business becomes much more agile. Now let's see a couple of businesses, what they really want to do and how SOA provides agility. Take for example a board making company, a traditional board making company. They are called usually the dry wipe board makers. We see all of these boards in our conference rooms, in our offices. Now let's say there is such a company that traditionally sells these boards over the counter. Means people go to their counter, you pay the money, and then they give you a board. They basically, they send it to your office. That's the regular way of doing the business at this point. And let's say there is a business that makes these boards and that sells these boards in a traditional way. Now because of the changes to the recent times, everybody is selling their stuff online. So now the board maker also thought it would be better if we can sell it online. More importantly, we will lose the business if we don't sell the online. See, business have two kinds of problems. One is if you don't expand, you perish. Basically, if you don't expand, you die. That's the problem with businesses. If you may be running really good at this point, all right, your business is you have all the old customers, loyal customers, they're coming back to you, but there's no guarantee that they will come back to you unless you upgrade. The same customers may want to buy online tomorrow. So businesses always have this need. They really need to adapt to the market conditions. Like for example, the board maker has to adapt to an online business model now. Hence they need to continue their over-the-counter setup so that people can still come to your shop and pay at your counter, buy the board. At the same time, you should offer to the customers a choice to buy it online, because nowadays everybody wants to buy online. I guess that gets shipped directly to your house. You don't want to go there and go through all this nonsense traffic. And I think if you are probably not staying in Hyderabad, Bangalore, you know the problem with traffic. You don't want to go anywhere. So the problem is customers expect a different type of probably service. Now in this case, the board maker is trying to put up a system which is online. But the problem here with this guy is he has already a couple of softwares. Now if you see the blue boxes on the screen, he has two softwares. One is billing software, where you can generate the bill on the counter, give it to the customer. There is another software, inventory software, on the right side. Now the inventory software basically connects to the warehouse or the godown, where it shows how many boards are there, what types of boards are there. Basically that gives him an idea of when a new stock has to be purchased, or when new stock has to be made from the manufacturing division if he has already one. And these two softwares are custom integrated. They can be in any technology. Inventory management can be in a different technology. Billing software probably the front end, which could be much easier, or a graphic intensive technology like Ajax, .NET kind of thing. Whereas inventory is more like a back-end technology like SAP or something that takes care of CRM stuff. But at a very base level, there is a front-end software, billing software, which takes care of bills, gets connected to the inventory. When somebody buys a board, you deduct one from the inventory software. Very simple setup at this point, custom integrated. Now this guy wants to move online, but there are a couple of problems here. When he wants to move online, alright, they want to expand into probably they want to set up a website where we can all his old customers can go to the website. They can make a purchase. The problem here is this business faces is One is they already have a couple of softwares, a billing and inventory. They don't want to discard the softwares because they are working fine. There is nothing wrong with the existing softwares. What the business owner thinking is, I want to be able to set up an online store, but the online store should integrate with my existing systems. It should not be like, I have to do everything again, because my employees are comfortable with the billing software. My employees are comfortable with inventory software. So when I, just because I am putting an online store, it should not be like I have to train my employees again. That's a lot of cost. And a lot of cost, and people are uncomfortable with learning new things. Nobody wants to learn SOA really, none of you, unless there is really a need. So especially the training cost is too high, and obviously to replace the billing and inventory softwares itself is a problem. Now this business has a problem with reusability. Means the business wants to use the existing software as it is, still be able to expand into online, means still be able to adapt to the market requirement. You see the jargon here. The market requirement is that this business moves to online, or this business expands into online. But to do that, the business has certain challenges, like they want to reuse the existing softwares. They don't want to discard them. And they don't also open up for various reasons, in terms of cost, in terms of retraining their employees, whatever it is, the business wants to reuse. We are looking at a very simple board maker. Think of a very big company which already has millions of dollars in their businesses, and in terms of softwares, obviously they don't want to discard everything and start something new, but they still need that agility. They still want to be a cheetah. Now this is the second thing that SOA provides. SOA says reuse whatever we have. We don't try to discard anything. You don't have to change anything. We'll see how it does. So the first thing we talked about is agility. That's what every company wants to achieve, agile, or being agile. A second thing everybody wants is reusability. They don't want to discard what is existing. They don't want to train their new employees in something completely new. Is the second. So one business we looked at, and it has a requirement that it wants to reuse the existing. Now look at a couple of other businesses. Company 2 and company 3 are more like food business. Let's say the restaurant image that you're looking at is a Buzz restaurant. I just given a name. And there's not business, takeaway business. This is more like our pizza. You drive in, you take your items, and you go home and eat. This is the second type of business. So the Buzz restaurant and Lucia takeaway, let's say these are the two different businesses. Now both are food businesses, but their models are slightly different. In the first instance, restaurant, people come there, the business has a kitchen, the business has a set, some place where customers can sit, talk, and eat while they talk. That's their model. So they have an entire setup where they prepare the food, they serve it to the customers eat and go. That's their business model. They're pretty let's say a popular restaurant in that area. The same way the takeaway guy, this guy is also pretty popular. Let's say the burgers are really good, so people come, order, pick up the order, go out. That's it. Now both these companies wanted to move online, or let's say instead of online, they wanted to expand. Means they wanted to set up a house or a branch at a different part of your city. Now which business can do it much faster? Is it the restaurant, or is it the takeaway business that can do things faster? They want to set up a new branch at a different location. Where can they do it? Or which one can do it faster? You can write the answers on the chat. Takeaway. Asran. Cool. So most of you said the takeaway business. Now, why do you think the takeaway business has advantage over the restaurant? Quick and easy. That's it. Quick and easy. You just open up a counter over there and start selling. That's it. You don't even have to have a kitchen over there. Probably the same kitchen that you're using here can be used, or probably at least part of it can be used. Quick and easy. So here, what you're saying, I think in India, most of the times we see what we call parcel services. We take a lot of parcels like biryanis or rotis. We do all these parcels. So that kind of businesses I've seen, they don't even need a kitchen. The food is prepared somewhere else. You just get it to the counter where you are selling it, and you sell it. That's a kind of takeaway. Even if you take pizza or these takeaways, at least they have partial kitchen. But in India, if you say, or probably a lot of other Asian countries where you have items already prepared, you need just the counter. That's it. You can right away start a branch. So here, the company 3, which is the takeaway company, has advantage, or that's much more agile than the restaurant business, which if he has to set up a new branch, the Buzz restaurant, it has to have everything. The staff has to be completely recruited. You need to have a special, again, the same kitchen over there, then area that you need to acquire, which is going to be costly again. And again, you need to set up everything so that people can talk and eat. The same thing again. So the efforts for a restaurant are much higher than a takeaway business. But if they don't do it, they basically lost the business. They want to do it, but to do it, it's costing them too much. So they're not really agile in this case. Now they want to become a much more flexible kind. Now let's say both these three companies, all the three companies went to a couple of IT companies. So all if you look at all these three examples that we've taken, the first example, the board maker, and the other second and third examples, restaurant and takeaway business, there are 2 parts. One is agility, reusability. Agility is what the restaurants wanted. Reusability is what the board maker wanted. These are the 2 things, the core things that SOA tries to provide. And let's say all these 3 companies went to a couple of software providers, means the software solution providers. For example, we've taken CTS and Infosys kind of thing too. Now see what CTS has offered and see what Infosys has offered. Now CTS offered these recommendations. Let's just go through those recommendations. It said, let's do everything, redo everything. Means we will replace your existing softwares. If you have a billing software, we'll replace it, we'll put something new. If you have an inventory software, we'll set up, we'll replace it new. Then we have a new websites that we're going to create, new billing software we give, new inventory we give. So you set up everything new, and then you train your employees, or we train your employees to use them. That's what CTS has offered. And they said you will have to discard all the existing softwares and start with all the new, everything fresh. Alright, and you will also train your employees to use the new software. Those are the recommendations from CTS. So basically they are replacing the entire system with something new. Now on the other hand, let's see what Infosys recommended. The Infosys recommended the most important thing that the business is looking for. What they said is, you can use all your existing softwares, the billing software that you have, the inventory software you have whatever the technology it is. It can be SAP, it can be Java, .NET, PHP, whatever you already have, you don't have to discard it. keep running. You guys, your employees will keep running those softwares. You don't have to discard them. But what they said is, we slightly modify these softwares. Means we add certain modules to these softwares, or we make these softwares act like more like a service. Means using they are exposed, means the interaction with these softwares will not be custom made, but they will be in a much more generic way. Means if you take for example SAP, let's say SAP speaks SAP language, Java speaks Java language, .NET speaks .NET language, PHP speaks PHP language. Now if you have to speak to any of these softwares, you have to know the language. That's what the generic customization we always talk about. Now instead of the customization, what Infosys is saying is, we will teach all these guys a new language called web services. The moment these guys know how to talk web services, we can talk to all these guys using a common language. See, the softwares, the technologies are different. You still have SAP, you still have Java, you still have PHP, but we're simply teaching the software, not to the business. So we are not touching the business. We are not asking the business to learn something new. We are teaching the software. We are basically connecting an adapter to these softwares that make them understand a language called web services. And web services speaks XML. All web services, this request and respond, everything happens in XML. So what Infosys said is, keep your softwares. We will add a plugin to those softwares. The plugins will be able to talk XML. Now every software is more like a service. We'll go in depth into that. And also Infosys said, you will be able to define your business more in terms of business-like terminology. It's not like SAP billing software connects to the inventory. That's a generic way of giving. Instead of that, if I say the billing, let's say .NET application will connect to my SAP application. Now this is a technology specific statement. Billing connecting to inventory is a generic statement. I'm basically ignoring the technology in which billing is implemented, in which the inventory is implemented. That's instead of that, if I use a specific .NET software is connecting to SAP, that's very specific. If I have to make any changes, I'll have difficulty. Now these are the two recommendations. Let's say we go in depth into each of these things. Even if you have slight fuzziness with your what is SOA thing, still hold it a little bit. It gets clarified as we move forward. So these three businesses which are trying to be agile, which wants to reuse their products, went to two companies, CTS and Infosys. CTS has certain recommendations which are on the left side of your screen, the PPT. Infosys has certain recommendations which are on the right side. Now which one would you go for? If you are a business owner out of those three companies, you went to Infosys and CTS and these are the recommendations, which one would you go with? Infosys. That's right, because you don't want to waste any of your existing things. At the same time, you want to minimize the cost. These are the two important things. The reason why you don't want to go with something new is because it involves a cost, not because you don't like it, not because you don't want to discard your softwares, because it's costly. Everything involves cost. If you keep using your existing one, probably you will have lesser cost. Now, so what every business wants is to be agile and to reuse their existing software so that they don't have to spend more money on the new software. They don't, more importantly, though, they don't have to train their employees into something new.
Microphone में telephone को बुलाना मैं.
Alright, now let's get into much more SOA specific. Can you guys hear me? I think some of you have to put your
speaker. Sorry. ఓకే సార్ ఇది ఐడి పంపించారు అది ఎలా సెర్చ్ చేసేది
Riaz, can you put yourself on mute? Or
యా
Niranjan?
టెల్ మీ సార్ నాతో మాట్లాడండి సార్ మీకు లైన్ వాళ్ళకి మళ్ళీ ఫోన్ చేస్తాను హలో
Is it Niranjan?
హలో యా దిస్ ఇస్ రియాజ్ అనిల్ సార్
Riaz, I think it's not you. Can you put yourself on mute? There's a lot of noise on the background. Niranjan, can you put yourself on mute, please?
యా హాయ్ అనిల్ దిస్ ఇస్ రియాజ్
Yeah, Riaz.
యా ఐ హ్యావ్ కంప్లీట్ మై BSc computer science. I'm working for. I have 3 years in experience inside of
No, that's fine. I'll come to that point. I think there's a lot of background noise. Can you put yourself on mute, please?
My name is Riaz. I completed BSc computer science.
Riaz, hold on.
I came from.
Riaz,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Please put yourself on mute. There is a mute button, you see? Okay, let me do it for you. Okay. If you guys want to talk, then just put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and talk. Okay, now let's go back. Now SOA, why or what SOA provides is we have set up, or we have at least established for now. We want agility as well as we want reusability. These are the two things. Now let's get into a much SOA centric example. A screen that you are looking at is eBay flow. Or if you are purchasing something on eBay, you go to eBay portal, so you buy, you basically browse through all the items, you put them onto that shopping cart, you make a purchase. When you make a purchase order is usually generated. Means it basically creates some entry into a table, or the data that you have purchased is stored somewhere. Now that is usually taken care by the order management system, the CRM you are looking at the top right box, blue box. Now let's see how various things happen from the point you purchase something on eBay till the point you receive that item, and what happens after you receive the item. So let's just have a look at the rough flow of activities. The first thing is an order management system, which takes your order the moment. Now here the website that you are looking at is a simple website. It does not have, that itself is not an order management system. The website is simply a portal that gives you a nice presentation, flashy stuff. It looks more from a user behavior perspective. Depending on what you purchased earlier or what's your browser's history of the search, it tries to give present the items in an attractive way. Now once you purchase something on the website, you basically connect it to the gateway and you made the purchase. The purchase is done. Now once the purchase is done, eBay has two things. One is it has to update you, means it has to send you an email alert and it has to send you an SMS alert. It also has to send an alert to the seller, because you are the buyer who is buying an item. There is somebody seller who is selling an item on eBay. Now here that is taken care by the order management system. So the order management system creates a new purchase, kind of an entry somewhere. Now once the purchase is made, the item has to be shipped and should be delivered. Now that will be taken care, or that will be tracked by, let's say, a delivery kind of delivery system. I've just given random names to these things. These are not exactly as they are. So delivery system basically looks at whether the seller has shipped your item or not, or what type of shipping they have used, whether probably they have used FedEx or they have used Blue Dart they have used, or probably they have used DTH. We don't know. So they might be having a lot of options over there. So depending on various options what they've used, then once they ship the product, the next thing is to track it. So tracking has to happen, means whether the item was shipped to that buyer or not. What's the status of it? If it hasn't reached, then what should we do, or we have to reship it, or those things. That's a tracking part. Once the item is received by the customer, the next, there is one more important, the feedback. It's really important for eBay that you provide your feedback so that they can improve the service. So these are 3 or 4 of the overall purchase till delivery cycle. So you make a purchase, the seller basically ships the product, we track the product whether it's reached or not. Once it reached the product or reached the buyer, we ask for feedback. Now this is a generic flow of eBay. Now all these systems are implemented in various technologies. You got a CRM, you got a Salesforce, you got a Siebel, you got probably some PHP, or you got SAP. You can have anything. Each of these assume are custom packaged applications implemented in various technologies. Now what SOSS is, now if eBay goes or eBay tries to become much more agile, the first thing SOSS is, you don't have to discard anything. You keep everything same. What we do is, we provide you what are called adapters. So there is an adapter for CRM, there is an adapter for Salesforce, there is an adapter for Siebel, there is an adapter for PHP, everything. We provide you a new piece of software. It's just like a jar file or ER file. So you provide a small adapter. Now what the adapter will do? The adapter will teach the new language to the existing software. So here you have the CRM exposed as a web service. You're looking at the CRM here exposed as a web service. Now the moment you have web service, a web service can receive a request in XML, respond with an XML. So here now what we are doing is, the CRM, we're now able to talk in terms of XMLs. Now the same way, the Salesforce, you have inserted a new adapter or a different adapter for Salesforce. See, remember, all these are all not same adapters. The adapter for CRM has different code, the adapter for Salesforce has a different code, the adapter for Siebel has different, the same way PHP. But once you implement the adapter, so there are lots of adapters that SOA software provider provides. For example, if you take Oracle SOA, Oracle SOA provides more than 300 adapters to include about 300 various technologies into web services. So here you have a web service. So everything here is exposed as a web service now. I got a lot of noise again. Please put yourself on mute. So here we have every software exposed as a web service now. Now why I want to expose it as a web service? Because I want to talk to all of them in a common language, XML. That's the reason I want to expose everything as an adapter. So now what we are saying is, don't discard your softwares, keep your softwares. We have taught the softwares a new language called, and we have taught how to speak in XML. Now apart from these things, now we're looking at the second part, the agility. If we see this one, SOA provides a different way of defining your business. Earlier we used to define our eBay flow something like in technical terms, like say the order management picks up the software, let's say, then the Salesforce will do the delivery, then the Siebel will do the tracking, PHP software will do the feedback. That's more technology centric. Our flow is defined by technologies. Now let's say in that flow, if I want to put, so now everything is custom integrated. If you look at this diagram here on the right side, these boxes, blue boxes, order management is custom integrated with delivery, Salesforce. Salesforce is custom integrated with Siebel. Siebel is custom integrated with PHP. So everything is custom. Now let's say, for example, feedback. Now eBay has realized if we are asking feedback only at the end of everything, a customer is not giving a feedback. Let's say eBay marketing team has proposed, let's ask for the feedback right from the beginning. Means if the order was done, created, let's ask for a feedback, how the customer felt about the entire experience on the website. Then let's ask for the feedback about delivery from the customer. Is it received, whether the customer received the product or not, or the customer is waiting still, or is it delivered as promised. Then tracking also probably. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to put the feedback module not just at the end but at different multiple locations. That's a business requirement. Now, will my technology support such a business requirement in the limited time? It won't. The problem is, just a moment guys, just right, sorry about that. So here my business requirement is I want to put the feedback module after every other module. After order management I want to put, after Salesforce I want to put that, after Siebel I want, which means my feedback PHP module has to be integrated with everything else. That's not possible now. If the business manager asks about this requirement, the technology manager would say no, it would take 6 months to do such a setup, probably 1,000 man hours. We don't have such budget. That's a technology risk constraint. It is too costly, too slow. The business cannot wait that long. So business wants to be much faster, much agile. Now with Oracle or SOA, and not just Oracle SOA, any SOA, what SOA provides is, now look at SOA way of doing the same thing. Now that we are looking, what we looked at is a technology or the traditional way of integrating softwares with one another. Order management integrated with Salesforce, which is integrated with Siebel, which is integrated with PHP. But the moment you implemented SOA, what we did first thing is we exposed every software as a web service, which means I can talk to each of these softwares as a simple web service using XML. That's it. Now the second thing, I'm defining my service like this. So yeah, I'm saying I'm defining what is called a BPEL process. In the BPEL process, BPEL is business process execution language. We'll go in depth into those things later, but what I'm actually trying to do here is, forget about this BPEL also. What I'm trying to do is I'm defining my business not in terms of like this, not in terms of the CRM, Salesforce, Siebel stuff, but in terms of services. I'm saying call the order management service. I don't care that it's a CRM. I don't care that it's implemented in some Java. I don't care it's implemented in SAP or PeopleSoft. I don't care. For me, it's a service which I can talk to using XML. Then I am saying call the service Salesforce. Again, this can be responded or requested using an XML. Let's call the Siebel service, the next service. Now finally call the feedback service. Now this flow, if you look at, it's more like you're calling services. It aligns more with your business way of talking. You're not talking in terms of technical jargon anymore. You're talking more like a business manager. Now let's say I want to put my feedback after that Salesforce. Now I can simply set my feedback after the Salesforce also, because everything is XML. I can attach, or all that I have to change is the people process I'm looking at. I don't have to change the technology. I don't have to include any technicalities or custom integration, anything. Everything for me is now XML because everything, all the softwares are exposed as XML. And my business process, which is this thing, is it sounds more like business technicals, means business terminology. Earlier I used to talk, let's integrate order management or let's integrate CRM software with Salesforce. Then let's call the Siebel software, let's call the PHP software. That's what I used to talk like. Now I'm not talking like in terms of technology. Now I'm talking like, let's call the order management service, then let's call the delivery service, let's call the tracking service, then let's call the feedback service. So I'm not really worried about what technology the delivery software is implemented in. I'm simply saying let's call the delivery service. So the implementation is completely hidden from the business process, and SOA provides ability, or it provides a way to define that business process. So these are the two things that SOA gives you. One is it allows you to reuse, or allows you to expose your existing softwares as web services. That's a way of reusing it, and it provides you a way to define your business in terms of business centric language or business centric jargon. So everything is now a web service. Anything you can talk with XMLs. Now these two things, both reusability on the right side using adapters, and agility by defining your process in a much business centric way. These two things are provided by your SOA, and this is nothing but your service oriented architecture. The reason why we call it service oriented architecture is everything is treated as a service here. Order management is a service irrespective of the technology it's implemented in. Delivery is a service irrespective of technology it's implemented in. Tracking is a service. So I just have to call service, or I just have to call that service at any point in my I should be able to call that service at any point in my business process. So the left side I'm looking at the business process. Call OEM service, call Salesforce service, or that's more appropriate would be call delivery service, call tracking service, call feedback service. That's how it should suppose. So I'm able to define my business in business centric way. So I'm much more agile now. I can take the feedback service, insert it into anywhere I want. I don't need so many man hours. I don't need so much time basically to do, the cost is minimized, and I'm still able to use my existing softwares. So the reason why we call it SOA is everything is treated like a service. That's the reason you call it SOA. And why we need SOA in the first place? All of a sudden why we need SOA is we want to be much more agile. Now if you ask me, SOA businesses always wanted to be agile. It's not all of a sudden that businesses have realized that we are like elephants, we want to be like cheetahs. No, they didn't realize it all of a sudden. They always needed it, right from probably hundreds of years. They always wanted to be flexible. So SOA is not something that's invented just now. It was there right from the beginning. Everybody, companies tried to implement this kind of methodology. Probably not with web services. They tried with messaging systems. They tried with client servers. Various ways. SOA was always a requirement that companies wanted. But the problem was there was no company that was able to provide an end-to-end kind of system, and obviously the kind of trust the company should have. Not a single company was able to provide this kind of technology that makes a business much more agile. Now all of a sudden on Oracle, and even for Oracle to implement this SOA, Oracle SOA, there was 10G SOA. Now we are looking at 11G. 10G was basically not all that popular. you can practically say it was more like a failure, their first shot at it. 11G is what, basically for this moment is at least popular. I wouldn't say it's successful, or I wouldn't say it's failure. That we will realize probably after certain implementations. But Oracle at least says they are able to support this kind of uh, software that is making companies agile, that is making companies reuse their existing softwares so that they can reduce the cost. Once they become agile, they are able to respond to the market conditions much faster. So at least Oracle is now able to give an SOA software which is useful, or which is practically implementable. So the oval symbol that you are seeing is nothing but the SOA, or service oriented architecture. It has two components. One is the left side. It treats everything as a service, thereby making your business agile. So you can take off service from any point, like feedback service, take it, insert it into your business process anywhere without changing the technology part. You don't have to change any of the existing softwares. Or if you want, let's say, replace your Oracle database with a DB2 database, there's no impact directly on the front-end business. We'll see how it is exposed to the front end, all that stuff later. But Oracle or any other SOA has these 2 points. Expose your business as a web service, thereby reuse it. Allow you to define a business process where everything is called as a service. So obviously by now you have a slight idea of what is SOA. So what is it? It's a technology, it's a programming. What do you think it is? You got a certain idea, probably some. So what do you think SOA is, all of you? I want all of you guys to put some answer into it. I know, I will know how far you would be able to. It's a technology. Is it? Okay. SOA as a concept. It's an architecture. It's a technology. Okay. Anything else? It's a service. Okay. Anything else? Anybody thinks what SOA is now? Okay. Most of you are actually right. SOA, as opposed to thinking it as a technology, what you looked at is a way of implementing a concept. What we, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, SOA, what we have is service-oriented architecture. That's what we are saying. Means we want to have our business model, our IT infrastructure, to be treated like a service. Earlier, we used to treat them as individual technologies. Now we are changing the way we think, or we are making it possible so that our individual technologies can be thought of as a services, and we should be able to call the services from anywhere without much of technical integration, all that stuff. So SOA is a different way of basically executing your business in a much agile way of executing your business. It's not really a technology. That's not something that's invented. SOA is it's not that it can be implemented only in technology. SOA can be implemented in GMS also. Now TIBCO, if you take for example, is actually one of such SOAs. TIBCO has the entire infrastructure to implement SOA, and that's not it could not take off that fast because of various reasons. But TIBCO is probably the one before Oracle that was pretty successful with implementing SOA. They implemented everything using GMS messaging infrastructure. So SOA, now Oracle tries to implement it in web services, basically XML. So it's not more like a technology. It's more like a paradigm that can be implemented. It's more like a concept or a thought probably, can be implemented in any technology. You use messaging to do that, you use XML to do that, various products do it in a lot of ways. Alright, so these are the summary points. It basically exposes everything as a service. Because it is exposed as a service, you can talk to it using XML. So XML is now the common language. The entire SOA you will see, everything is in XML. And the second thing that SOA provides is the ability to define your business process in terms of services. Now let's look at Oracle SOA. This is what you are looking at, Oracle SOA. These are some of the components of Oracle SOA. I'll come back to this diagram a little late, but before we go there, let me give you one up. So these are the two things. It makes your company, or it makes your business agile, and it allows you to define your business process in BPEL. BPEL is another language. Now another thing is, I will also see how SOA is related to Fusion middleware stack. Fusion middleware is basically a group of products. It's not just one product. It's not a single technology as such. It's a group of products. That's why it's called a stack. Now, if you see that stack, there are three types of products in the Fusion middleware. There are certain Java-based products. There are non-Java based products which are called system components. Then there are certain tools to operate or to manage these products. Let's say if there is a Java component, you need to develop that Java component. You need to put it onto an application server. So that's where the development tools come into picture. So the Fusion middleware stack is a group of products. Now the Java products, apart from Java system components and development components, you have a couple of independent components in the Fusion middleware stack, especially WebLogic. This is where all Java products will go. Then Oracle Metadata Repository, it's called, this is where the metadata of the application that you have developed will be stored. Means, for example, let's say you are developing an XML. The XML program for SOA requires that there are a lot of XSDs, the schema definitions. A schema definition is basically a definition according to which you have to write an XML file. Let's say the rules of writing an XML file. The rules are stored in the database. That tables, or the group of tables where the rules are stored, is called the metadata repository. So we'll see those things as we go in depth into each of those. I'll just give you a glance of all these various components that you have. If you look at the Java components of Fusion middleware, these are you got identity management, one component. There's Oracle Web Center, Oracle Source Suite, then Oracle Enterprise Content Management. These four products are Java-based products. And the moment you have Java-based product, Oracle recommends that you use WebLogic server to deploy those products, because any Java product requires an application server. So most of these products are compatible with WebLogic, WebSphere, and JBoss also. But obviously Oracle recommends WebLogic because that's their own product, not because it works better, but it's because their own product. Earlier they used to have Oracle application server. That was not really a success. So after they purchased WebLogic, after they purchased BES systems, they got WebLogic. So any Java product of Oracle now you will see being deployed on WebLogic. And in Fusion middleware, the Fusion middleware stack, these are 4 or 5 products which are Java based, therefore deployed onto WebLogic server. Apart from the Java products, you got non-Java products which are called system components. Usually the most common system component you will see is the HTTP server, Oracle HTTP server, OHS. Now OHS is a web server developed on top of Apache. So OHS is not something that was invented new. Oracle has taken Apache, the open source web server. They have developed certain parts of Apache server. They have added support to it, and they are calling it OHS server. So all the configuration, the behavior of OHS is just like Apache server. You will see the same configuration files. You will see the same syntax. Everything. It's basically Apache server. Apart from HTTP server, you got a couple of other components. These components are again part of Fusion middleware, but they are not Java components. Basically, they're more written in C. So you will have a command to start those processes, a command to stop those processes, all that stuff. Alright, these are non-Java components. So if it is Java, it goes to WebLogic, which is like SOA or OSB kind of thing. OSB not, okay. OSB is Oracle Service Bus, not actually part of Fusion middleware officially. OSB is again a Java component, and it has to be deployed to WebLogic. During our SOA, we will be also seeing about how SOA integrates with OSB. We will see the basic structure of OSB also. Oracle Service Bus is basically to do SOA separate than OSB. Yes, that's right. SOA is basically for what we call to execute the people process, mediator process. OSB is more for service virtualization. We will talk about the difference when we get into OSB. But both are Java products, therefore they have to be deployed to WebLogic.
Anil,
Yes.
so OSB sits in a way logically is the presentation layer, SOA is the app layer, and both underneath use the WebLogic server for them to be able to install.
That's right.
So because so in terms of installation also, when I download, SOA needs to be downloaded and installed separately than the OSB, right?
That's right. OSB is separate, SOA is separate, and WebLogic is separate. So you can actually install WebLogic first, and on top of the same WebLogic you can install SOA and OSB. But to keep it separate, what we do is we install WebLogic SOA separately, then WebLogic OSB separately in two different domains.
Basically, as an architecture, it will go on one server. I will have the WebLogic, and then on top of it the SOA, and then on another server I will have the WebLogic, and on top of that OSB. That's the way it will go.
That's right. That's correct.
And real heavy lifting happens at a SOA because that's where all the Java code and people resides. So if say I have to design load wise, I may have only one OSB server, but I may have four SOA servers as an example with 4 JVMs on each, right?
Right. That's right. OSB basically gives you what is called the entry point. A different software may call OSB. OSB performs a lot of transformation, everything, and it calls a service which is available on SOA. Let's say if you have a CRM software, the CRM software is available as a service on SOA because SOA is the one that provides the adapter. Just now we have seen the adapter makes the CRM application act like a service.
Right.
So that's available on SOA. But from OSB is where the we call that SOA service.
So then what does this OSB really does? What is it doing?
We will come to that. There are certain properties called retro properties. It basically validates, it transforms, it enriches, then it routes. There are very beautiful features of any mediator or OSB. We will see those features when we get into mediator, especially what those features are. They are really beautiful, especially to give you a very simple example. Let's say SOA expects input in the form of, let's say, for a country name is supposed to be sent as United States. Let's say that's the complete name has to be sent to SOA service, but the client who is calling is giving input as USA, 3 letters. Now we can ask the client to send it as United States of America. That's one way of doing it. In that case, the client has to change the code, or what we are doing is you are putting OSB in between. The OSB converts your USA into United States of America and calls the SOA. That's a very simple example, which is called transformation. Means without affecting the client, in this case, I'm able to use OSB and give the input to SOA in the way it wanted. So OSB is acting more like a bridge. I don't have to change the client. I don't have to change the service or SOA which is offering the service. Okay, let me give you an example. I think I'll write it down. We're looking at what is transformation or what it does. Say this one. Let's say here, this is a client, all right? Client is trying to call a service on SOA. So SOA, what it does is, SOA on the backend has some kind of Java application, let's say. All right, the Java application is exposed as a service using an adapter. Now the client is sending an input like this, USA, but the SOA, which is offering the service, is expecting input like this, United States of America. Now if the SOA software or the SOA platform, the service offered on the SOA platform is expecting United States of America, and if you are sending USA, obviously the service will not be able to understand what is USA. Now to solve this problem, either I can ask the client to send it like this, in which case I have to change the client, or the second approach I'm using is I am saying there is somebody called OSB in between which performs a transformation. The transformation is, if it is USA, transform it to United States of America and send it to the SOA. So the OSB has performed the transformation. This is called the transformation here. The OSB has performed the transformation. You don't have to change the client, and you still be able to send the input the way the backend service is expecting. So in this case, OSB has performed the transformation, which is this one, from USA to United States. Like that, OSB can do especially these 3 properties, these 5. So it can validate, it can enrich, it can transform, it can route. This, I think it's operate something. So these 5 properties is what OSB provides. What we talked about is a transformation. So OSB especially is used for routing, especially. Means, let's say here, if it is United States, call service 1. If it is India, call service 2. Let's say that's a business logic that we want to use. If the incoming request has the country as USA, transform it first to United States and call the service 1 offered by the software deployed on SOA. If the client is asking for India, or IN is the input, transform it into India first and then route to service 2. So that's a second functionality we are looking at, routing. That's again performed by OSB. Routing is the most important thing that OSB does. Other things are more like bonuses. So we'll see more into those things, especially if you are operating on OSB, you will see more of those things. Did that clear your question? You got some idea? Okay, cool. Deepak, what about you? Okay, excellent. So here, now let's come back to the Fusion middleware stack we're looking at. So the non-Java related products are HTTP. Webcase is something else that we will be talking about, which sits in front of HTTP server. It's more like a buffer in front of HTTP. Means, let's say there is a page, you are asking for the page 100 times, a static page, HTML pages. If you ask directly HTTP server, you have to go to the hard disk and get that page 100 times. Now what Webcase acts as is a buffer in front of HTTP. If the same page is asked, it takes it from the buffer and gives it to the browser instead of even going to HTTP server. So we'll talk more in depth into that one. So Webcase is another thing that we will be touching, especially these two products we'll be touching as part of SOA integration in our sessions. Apart from this, the tools, as a developer, you will be using these tools, not as an administrator, especially the Z Developer and NetBeans. These are the two tools provided by Oracle to develop a SOA based product or a Java based product. These are the development tools. We won't be using these tools, but it's good to know that you have those tools. Then this is a common relationship that you will see. The reason why I'm talking about these things, it gives you more clarity about what is SOA rather than simply sticking to the theory. Then we will summarize everything again. We'll go back to the screens. So here, if you see, we are looking at the relationship between SOA, WebLogic, JDK, MDS I talked about, Metadata Services. Now if you see this one, SOA, I said, provides a set of adapters. Now here, let me go to the other, this. SOA, as we say, is an adapter. Now these adapters, they are written in Java. They're all written in Java. The adapters all are. So if something is in Java, you need an application server to run it. So if you see this one, this diagram gives you a very better way of mind picture. Oracle SOA you can think of as a large group of Java applications. The moment we install SOA, we go into that interface of SOA, you will see a lot of Java products. Because they are Java, they are all Java applications. So if there is an adapter, it's a Java a RAR file. If there is a BPL engine, the BPL engine is written in Java, which executes BPL. If there is another component of SOA, that's written in Java. So all SOA is written in Java. Or because it's written in Java, the blue box you are seeing is SOA. That's all Java. So the Java has to be deployed onto a WebLogic server. Now Oracle SOA is compatible with WebLogic, WebSphere, and JBoss. These are the three app servers that Oracle SOA is compatible with. And you already know WebLogic requires a JDK. So there is a JDK that we do install first. Then on top of it, we install WebLogic. On top of it, we install Oracle SOA suite. And on top of it, we create a domain, which is WebLogic domain again. Now, we'll come back to that architecture again. But the Oracle SOA suite, as I said, has an MDS associated with it. MDS in the sense, if I put an application on top of SOA suite, the application stores all its data into MDS, the Metadata Services. or the metadata repository, call it. Now, obviously, the most popular database on this side is Oracle database, but SouthSuite supports a couple of other databases like DB2. It supports MySQL, it supports MS SQL Server. So the three popular databases it supports is Oracle, DB2 from IBM, MS SQL Server from Microsoft. Those three. Apart from these three, it supports the open source MySQL. Alright, so the box that you are looking at, Oracle SOS Suite, alright, has these components. These are the components that allow SouthSuite to provide our core business services. It has, we will talk about what these processes are, why they are required in our later sessions individually, but these are the 4 or 5 components. There is a BPEL process manager which executes BPEL. We will see what is BPEL later. Then there is a mediator. Its mediator is more like OSB. If you have to know the history of mediator was originally in 10G. ESB is now renamed as mediator and went inside SOA. ESB was the original 10G product of Oracle. Now, after Oracle bought BA has a service bus called Ecologic Service Bus. Ecologic Service Bus. The Ecologic Service Bus has been renamed as Oracle Service Bus, which we are calling it OSB. Now the mediator and OSB are more like same, because if you see this one, ESB was the original one which is supposed to be Oracle Service Bus. ESB is Enterprise Service Bus. So what Oracle does is whatever product they had, they inserted or they embedded it inside SOA. They're calling it mediator now. They bought a new software from BA Systems which used to be called Ecologic Service Bus. The same guys who sold them the WebLogic. So Ecologic Service Bus is now renamed as Oracle Service Bus from 11th onwards. So here a mediator and OSB, they perform similar things, the same retro properties you are looking at. So mediator is at a much smaller level or inside a specific service, whereas OSB provides a lot of other features than mediators. Now the difference of features we can see later if we need, but OSB and mediator are more or less used for routing. That is what they are used. If X value is 1, send it to service A. If X value is 2, send it to service B. That's the kind of routing that they perform. But OSB performs at enterprise level. Mediator performs within a service. Within one service, you can have a mediator component. The mediator can route it again. Then there is a human workflow component which actually allows something to, like approvals, delegation, all this stuff, which can be put into a BPEL process. We will see that thing. Business rules and decision services are again to make a decision. Spring context is more like embedding some Java program inside a BPEL. Now, to understand these things in a better way, we need to know what is BPEL first of all, and what are other components, how a service is defined in BPEL, all those things. That we will come to that one later. All right. I'm just giving you a glance of it. Then there is something called dehydration store. Yeah, I think that will be too much inside this. We wanted to see these things, the components. Let's go back to our original slide. So here, these are some of the components of SOA. There is an application server here. Then SOA suite here. In this SOA suite, actually the OSB is written inside, but it's not. SEP is a complex event processing that's coming out now as a separate product altogether. Earlier it used to be part of SOA suite, but complex event processing has been separated now in 11G. This is another diagram. We'll come back to this diagram again. And I think I've given all of these things for your reference more of. These are some of the other products of SOA. Means not Oracle SOA is not the only SOA product available in the market. As I told you, SOA is not something that new, not invented new. It was there right from the beginning. A lot of companies tried to create a product based on SOA kind of architecture. Not many of them were able to be successful, but now the Oracle SOA 11G has certain competitors. IBM SOA is one main competitor. ActiveOS is basically from it's another SOA based product. JBoss has a product, SOA product called BRMS. This is open source SOA. So these are some of the products in SOA. TIBCO, the reason why I did not include TIBCO is TIBCO is a message oriented SOA. Means they try to implement everything based on sending and receiving messages. So whereas Oracle SOA, these IBM SOA, they go to the next level. They internally use messaging, but on top of messaging you have XML also. So if you say Oracle SOA, it's more XML oriented, even though it internally uses JMS. But TIBCO, it stops at JMS itself. Oracle SOA goes one step ahead. It tries to implement in a much simpler language, XML. So TIBCO does not come into this current category of SOA products. TIBCO was once upon a time a GMS based SOA. That's the reason I did not include TIBCO into it. Whereas all these products you are looking at are XML based SOA products. Again, we were talking about the same thing. These are various products of Fusion middleware. This. So we have the first two red, which are independent products written in red. One is Oracle WebLogic Server and the Metadata Repository, MDS. Now, one interesting thing is MDS will be used by a lot of products. For example, MDS used by Oracle SOA Suite. MDS will be used by Web Center. MDS will be used by OSB. So all Java components usually use MDS. Then we got Java components itself, which are written in kind of the sky blue here. So you have Oracle Identity Management, Oracle Web Center, and Oracle SOA Suite. Then Oracle Enterprise Content Management Suite. So these products are Java products, therefore they are all deployed onto WebLogic. Then there are again non-Java products. You have Business Intelligence Discoverer, the Oracle HTTP Server OHS, and then Oracle Webcase you got, Internet Directory, Virtual Directory, Portal Support. These are all non-Java products. Then you got the development tools. So I just listed some 15 products here of Fusion middleware stack. Now these 15 are not the final list. There are some components here and there that are missing. And if you go into certain documents, even the listing is sometimes put in here and there. So you will not be learning each one of these things. It's not really necessary. Depending on what your project has, you might pick up a couple of other components along with the important ones. Especially WebLogic is something that you have to know. If you have SOA, you will pick up SOA. Then you may pick up OHS. OHS and Webcase will be already there. You may pick up Internet Directory sometimes. And identity management is something that might be another product. Basically, identity management is SSO, the single sign-on, especially that centralized management of users, groups, policies, all that stuff. So that is something that you might have, but those are all secondary. As I said, it's not like you have to learn them as a standalone product. SOA is probably the only thing. The next most popular one is Web Center. That's also a very good one. So you will see Oracle SOA, Web Center, OSB also. OSB is always there whenever there is SOA. So that's something that you will pick up on the go. But once you have an idea of SOA, other things will be much easier to get along. Before we go that, I'll just give you this is your SOA architecture. We'll be talking about all these things as we proceed. On the right side here, I have given the eBay flow again. You got order management, delivery module, which is written in Salesforce, or tracking, which is in CRM, or feedback in PHP, or some other module. Now we are installing adapters written in Java. And okay, now before we go there, the outer box you are looking at, the blue box, is your SOA. So the first thing that SOA provides is the adapters. These are adapters written in Java for each of the technologies. See, Salesforce has an adapter, CRM has an adapter, PHP has an adapter, Java has an adapter, .NET has an adapter. They are not same. They're all different adapters. And I already told you there are about more than 300 adapters that Oracle provides. Some of them are free, some of them you have to buy. So that also a way that Oracle makes their money. Then on the left side, you're looking at the components. This is how you define the business process. There may be certain BPEL components, mediator components, human workflow components, business rules. So your business is defined in these components. We will see in depth into what each of these components is, how it helps you define your business flow. See, for a business, what they want to do is, if you take the eBay, the business way of describing it is, when a customer buys something, I want to send it to the order management software. Then somebody should ship it, somebody should track it, somebody should take the feedback. That's how a business process works like. It does not talk about technologies, it does not talk about individual way of implementing it. A business process is much more generic, and that's what your BPEL provides, or the business process execution, or the Mediators. These provide certain services. We'll see those services as we go. And these services are these BPEL and Mediator components. They are executed in the engines. You're looking at the engines. So here you got BPEL engine, Mediator engine. Hold on. This one. So here you got engines. If there is a BPEL component, it has to be executed in a BPEL engine. If there is a Mediator component, it has to be executed in a Mediator engine. Now these engines are again written in Java. So SOA is, if you have to think in raw terms at a very fundamental level, it's a big Java program. On top of Java program, it is allowing you to define your thinking in terms of XMLs. So it provides a way of extraction. So it's not extraction, abstraction. So it abstracts everything. Means you don't have to think in terms of Java now. You can think in terms of a common XML. Then there is something called Event Delivery Network. We'll talk about this one. Then User Messaging Services. We'll also talk about this one. Alright. This is also part of SOA. Then you have MDS, Metadata Services. There are certain schemas in the MDS. These are the 4 schemas: MDS, SOA Infra Schema, or ISDPM, or BAM. To these schemas, our entire SOA infrastructure will connect to put the data into them and to extract the data out of them. So the relationship between all these things we will understand in a in-depth way as we move into each of these topics. This is overall diagram of how SOA looks like. A company has all its existing softwares here. SOA is something that we are putting additional. You're not replacing anything that is existing. SOA is something additional implementation that you do. The moment you implement this additional thing, so you attach adapters so that the existing ones can be exposed as a web service, then you develop a composite, it's called. The composite allows you to define your business services or business process in a service like flow. Alright, so we'll be going into each of those things. We'll be seeing in our next session, especially we will see what are these components, how those components are used in setting up a business process. Alright, and this is one of the real-time architectures we looked at. I just picked up a document from somewhere. This is the front end where the users probably is accessing it. Then there is a load balancer here. Then the Webcase, which is a buffer for HTML pages static content. Then HTTP server. Alright, this is the OHS. OHS will connect to the backend. And before it connects to the backend, there is a security services which will allow or deny you the service. Alright, if you are allowed, you will be able to connect to the source root, or you will be able to connect to the Oracle Web Center or the Identity Manager, anything. Alright, and behind the source root through adapters, you have the backend all softwares. And you might have a database which provides you an external LDAP kind of thing for authentication, other stuff. Alright, and on the top you have some management tools like WLST is a command line tool to manage your WebLogic and SOA. Then you have a console that we use very often. That's for managing your, again, through GUI based. Oracle Enterprise Manager is a new thing that we'll be using again. These three are the management tools to manage all this stuff. Alright, so that's all I have for today. This should give you a generic idea of what is SOA, why SOA is popular, what SOA provides, and how it provides. OEM is not a monitoring tool. It's more like managing tool. For now, it's a management tool. OEM grid control is a monitoring tool. OEM 12C, it's called grid control. GC, that is pretty much a monitoring tool. So if you are installing OEM 12C, yeah, it's a monitoring tool. In 11G, it's not a monitoring tool, it's simply a management tool. Okay, now all of you will have a lot of questions, so shoot your questions. What are the course topics? Will go in order. The order will be first we will go with installation. So let's look at the order. So this is installation, then we go with the deployment, then we go with UMS, then we go with the BAM, then we go with OHS integration, Webcase, then we will go with logging, auditing, then we go with these are individual topics: OWSM, Oracle Service Manager, then components, administration. Like here you will talk about BPL administration, human workflow administration, then other stuff. Then we go with the OSB integration towards the end. Then we go with the cluster. Then we go with performance too. Yeah, those are the rough orders. Yes, Mukund, you will get the recording. I'll upload. This is getting recorded already. So once the session is over, I usually upload it to your server, and I'll give you the link to that download location. I'll send out a link to all the participants. Yes, for this session also you will get that link once we finish this thing. Yeah, any other questions? Now before we, I ask with generic questions, did you get an idea of what SOA is? That's really important. So did you get an idea what SOA is, or why Oracle SOA? Now the reason why Oracle SOA is popular is because Oracle is behind it. So it's not like Oracle SOA is something a great product, or it performs miracles that other softwares could not do it. But Oracle SOA is because it's from Oracle. Oracle knows how to sell something, so they are selling it pretty fast. Because they are selling it pretty fast, we have enough demand for it, so we need to learn it as a software engineer. So you got more demand, you learn it, you get more money. That's how simple it is. What's the minimum WebLogic stuff required to start with SOA? We should know about deployments and the domain architecture. That's enough. That's enough. But in performance tuning, you have to know in depth. Especially you have to know JVM architecture, JVM performance tuning, then work managers, all that stuff. Minimum, if you ask me, you need to know the WebLogic architecture about admin server, managed servers. Then how do you start and stop the WebLogic servers? Then how do you do a deployment in WebLogic? That should be more than enough, and a little bit of JDBC. That's it. Nothing, not too much, but the more you know about WebLogic, the better, especially for troubleshooting. For learning SOA, you don't need anything, but troubleshooting, everything is WebLogic. Because, for example, if you see stuck threads in SOA, it has nothing to do with SOA. It's WebLogic. You have to know how to troubleshoot stuck threads in WebLogic. Out of memory. Out of memory has nothing to do with SOA. It's a WebLogic problem, JVM problem. So any out of memory, if you can troubleshoot, SOA out of memory also you can troubleshoot. That's how simple it is. Administration tasks related to SOA, you will go about deployments, SOA based deployment. These are called composites. So we'll talk about composite deployments, undeployments, revisions. Then we will see about user messaging services administration. Basically, how do you configure UMS, the email drivers, everything. BAM also will have configuration and export, importing of reports, other stuff. You have to integrate OHS with Webcase. That's an administrative activity. Then OSB integration is another administrative activity. You need to create a cluster and make sure the clustered source servers are working or in sync with each other. Then the regular WebLogic related means, as I said, SOA is not something new. It's just like a Java application. So if you are supporting a Java application on WebLogic, whatever activities you are doing, you will be doing the same thing in SOA also. SOA using GMS. Yeah, Riaz, what's the question? You can ask that question, Riaz. Riaz, can you hear me? You can actually speak and ask me the question. I could not understand what the question is. SOA using GMS.
Is there anything we need to configure related to JMS in the SOA configurations?
No, not much, Riaz, not much. So GMS specifically we won't be touching upon, but GMS is something SOA internally uses. So if you ask specific to GMS, will we be doing anything with GMS? Probably not too much, unless there is a problem and we are troubleshooting it. Webcase can be used as a software load balancer also. I think would you be seeing in-depth description? No, not Webcase. It will be the OHS which will be using as a software load balancer. Webcase is always a buffer. Webcase alone cannot be used as a software load balancer. It's not possible. OHS will be seeing, yes, in depth into how to configure the OHS to be used as a software load balancer. Yes. Any other questions, guys? How to access SOA Enterprise Manager using virtual IP? I guess we need to configure OHS for this one. Virtual IP, not necessary. OHS, if virtual IP is on your another box where WebLogic is running, you can use EM also for that. OHS is not mandatory if you are using virtual IP. So OHS is not really necessary for accessing Enterprise Manager through virtual IP. We will see that one. You will be able to directly access Enterprise Manager without OHS. And the next question, will you cover?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
How do you actually initially plan for complete SOA setup? A client is going to ask you for something, and how many servers, how many things, how you are going to justify for that? Can you just brief?
From the interview perspective. Okay, if it is from interview perspective, it changes from instance to instance or project to project. There are large projects versus there are small projects. For example, a decent number is for to satisfy the interviewer. The JVM instances decent number is anywhere between 70 to 100. Means if you say 50 JVM instances you are managing, it might sound like a very small environment. A safe number always to satisfy an interviewer is 70 to 100 JVM instances. So out of those JVM, we are talking about WebLogic JVMs here. So your production setup should have at least 70 to 100 JVMs. Now on the 100 JVMs for SOA based, you may have probably 10 or 20 SOA and other probably 10 OSB WebLogics, then about 5 or 10 OHS servers in front of the WebLogics, then Oracle rack. That would be a decent, good, or a big enough environment.
So if it is for POC purpose, if you going to do some small setup, so
What is it?
If we are going to set up a POC setup. So in that case, how we can showcase?
POC setup, you don't need to see that, show that entire, architecture. You will set up Webcase. Let's say you will set up OHS server as a front end. Then you will set up probably OSB. Then OSB has only one instance. One JVM can actually run the OSB. Then SOA also can be on one JVM. Then you have a backend database. So for a POC, all that you need is one OHS, one OSB, one SOA, one database. That's it. You are giving a proof of concept. That's it. You're not talking about load. You're not talking about performance, all that stuff. You are trying to prove a point that this can happen. So you need to have the simplest of possible setup. So front end is OHS, which acts like your load balancer and as a virtual router kind of thing. Then on the middle you might have OSB, where you will make the call to the service. The OSB will do the transformation, routing, whatever is required. And on the back end is where SOA, which is offering all these services. And OSB, SOA on the back end is integrated with Oracle database and also with a lot of other softwares which you already have through adapters. So POC does not require this. POC requires only 3 instances. OHS, OSB if you need, and then SOA. That's it. Yeah, Prasad, you were asking something. Will you cover OEM installation configuration as SOA domains? Oracle Enterprise Manager, yes. Yes. OEM will be an integral part of our entire managing thing. Without OEM, you cannot actually manage SOA. So we will be, as during the very first installation of SOA, we will also install Enterprise Manager also. Oracle Enterprise Manager. Okay. Any other questions? Just shoot your question. You mean the 12C grid control? No. 11C. What is adapter? Adapter is a software that connects or that exposes a technology as a service. Let's say you have Java technology. A software is designed in Java. If you want to talk to that technology, you have to write a Java program. Now, let's say that's not what we want. We want to talk to the Java program using XML. So the first thing we want to do is expose or convert or teach the Java program about how to speak XML, and that's what an adapter does. Adapter gives a software the ability to communicate in XML. If you have a Java program, you attach an adapter to the Java program. Now the Java program can talk XML. You have a .NET program, you attach an adapter to the .NET program. Now the .NET program can talk XML. So an adapter teaches a software about how to talk XML. That's what an adapter is. Got it, Riaz? Okay, any other questions, guys? Okay, guys. If you don't have questions, that's all we have for today. I'll be uploading this recorded session in about 10-15 minutes to the server, and you will get a mail with the link where you can download it from. So make sure you download it and you're able to view that video. If you have issues with viewing the video, let me know. And we will continue with the components, other stuff tomorrow. Same timings, 6 o'clock, 6 to 7:30 or 8 o'clock. We'll go in depth into what the components are, what they are used for. Then we jump into the installation. So we'll have fundamentals a little bit tomorrow, and then a little bit of explanation, and then the installation part. Our plan is to have about 15 sessions end to end, about 2 hours each session. 15 sessions should finish in about 17-18 days with 1 or 2 gaps. That's the plan, Bhavani. Can we start a bit early, at least by 15 minutes? You mean 5:45? No. Some people are saying no. Actually, this is supposed to be this is supposed to be 5 o'clock. I think if everybody is okay, I can start it a bit early. If I think Prasad is saying no here, so I think I'll try to convince him, and I'll confirm it in the mail. Right, Bhavani? I'll try to convince Prasad here so that he can get up early. Probably I'll give him a call or something 15 minutes before. Then yeah, 5 o'clock is it's little too early. So for some of our guys, so even for you, at 5 o'clock. Where are you joining from? You're in India or in US? You are. It's still okay. I think if you are in India, you might find it difficult sometimes to get up at 5 o'clock. So 6 o'clock, we'll do it at 6 or 5:45, as some of you guys have asked. Uh, 5:30, 5:45. Yeah, 5:45 looks to be kind of everybody's kind of little adjustments they can set up with it. So I'll try to set up at 5:45. Those who have issues with 5:45, I'll try to convince them. So let's see if we can join at 5:45 tomorrow. I think Prasad, if he says okay, then we should be able to start at 5:45 sharp. And make sure you join sharp on time. I think yeah, Prasad said okay. So tomorrow we'll be starting at 5:45 in that case. All right. Make sure you